You have called variously Mr. Mulroney your true friend. For example, a letter you sent to him on April 19,
Yes.
1991.
Yes.
And then in March 16, 1993, you said for more than 13 years you had the privilege of calling him your friend.
Yes.
Were you going around town saying Mr. Mulroney was your friend?
Yes. Not only my friend, he made a lot of friends in Europe, because if he would not have supported the Airbus problems, Airbus might have gone bankrupt.
Now, you also called Mr. McKnight your friend in a letter that you wrote him in 1990. Do you recall that?
Yeah, but this is a difference.
All right, yes.
Yes.
He wasn't really a friend.
When you are in the party with the Conservative parties, you say your friend to your lawyer here, and you wouldn't say it. He's his personal friend.
Well, I mean it. Did you mean it?
When I speak
of Mr. Wolson as my friend, I mean it. Did you mean it when you were writing Mr. McKnight and calling him your friend?
The question is, what do you understand under friend? I think that Mr. Mulroney was a completely different friend to me than Mr. McKnight.
But you
now, if you want, we can put grades on it. Friend number 1, number 2, number 3 in quality.
Mr. McKnight said he didn't consider you his friend.
It's up to him.
Were you a friend of Alexander Haig?
Yes.
Good friend of yours?
Well, what you understand under friend, a business friend. Yeah.
I obviously don't have the same understanding of friendship than you do, sir.
Well, the understanding I have of friendship might be completely different to yours.
Yes, and unbelievably that's true.
But then perhaps you can ask Mr. Mulroney what friend I am to him when you look at the picture.
You can ask him if you want. You can ask him when he comes here.
Yeah.
Mr. McKecken was a good friend of yours?
He was a friend. Yes, I gave him a complete overview of the project.
Right.
NATO, international market, yes.
And you also had said in this letter and other letters you were concerned that it was an interest of Canada to encourage exports, right?
Sure. All over, when you depend in 85% to one client just down to the south, it's time that you look for some independency which you cannot achieve with nuclear submarines under the Arctic ice.
You say in the first full paragraph, and I quote, "With regard to me personally, you know that I do not need a job with Thyssen as I am economically independent with my own companies." Do you see that?
Yes.
I accepted this position as chairman of Thyssen BHI because I believed in the commitments of elected Canadian politicians and because I liked the challenge to establish a new industrial operation with lasting jobs and exports for Canada.
Yes.
Most of all, I hope to create economic return for Canada's generous contribution to the world through peacekeeping, with the efforts of peacekeeping vehicles made in Canada as a first step to establishing an industry to manufacture an entire range of equipment used for peacekeeping, right?
Absolutely right.
Right, and you smile because you just like to help other people, right?
Oh, I would do it tomorrow, if I could. The same project.
This is all for altruistic motives, to help Canadian soldiers?
Children or deaths, or the families of dead soldiers, whatever it is, yes.
Right. And I've read a lot of your letters, and as Mr. Wolson says, there are a lot of them. And whether it's for obesity, you're just helping children, right?
Yes.
Or here with the project is to help soldiers, lives, and exports and industry.
Yes, and the Canadians which had no job in Cape Breton. This is what it was all about when I was asked to come here, because Mr. Mulroney offered 3 things for Nova Scotia: jobs, jobs, jobs. Right. This is why I came. I did not come here because I woke up one morning and I thought I should go to Cape Breton.
Is there any document that you've ever written where you disclose that you had a very significant economic interest in the outcome of this project to the tune of $1.8 billion?
Whether I have disclosed such a document?
You always say it's for other people. Do you ever say what the real truth is? I stand to make $1.8 billion if this project works out?
Oh, yes. Because the whole projects and whatever I was involved in with the support of the German government was, besides this, to use projects to get financing for the parties too.
No. Mr.
Oh, sure.
Mr. Schreiber, listen to my question. You told us you've produced every document that was relevant to this inquiry, right? You told me this at the outset.
Yeah.
I have read a lot of your letters backwards, frontwards, and sideways.
Yes.
I don't remember a single one where you say the reason I'm interested in this project, whether it be obesity or the TH495 project, saying, and by the way, I stand to make more than $1 billion. You never disclose yourself economic interest, do you?
Well, I would think when you advertise your job, you speak about your professional job, and you will not say you make $2 million a year on that.
You told Mr. McEachern that you don't need this job for economic reasons. I just read you the paragraph.
Absolutely. I had enough to live, and I had a wonderful life before I come here and get really messed up with this Canadian event.
So all of this is always for altruistic purposes, never for KarlHeinz Schreiber.
I've never claimed that I'm only a mere samurai or Jesus Christ. Come on, don't do this to me.
So when you claim you have these altruistic motives, we should never neglect the fact that there's also something in it for KarlHeinz Schreiber.
Sure, if I would stood alive and the whole thing would have been a success and I would have been able to get this amount of exports for Canada, $360 billion. Can you imagine how happy people would be today if they would have that kind of jobs? What are you talking about?
And you would be very happy and an extraordinarily rich man, would you not?
Oh, absolutely. But people know that personally I don't care too much about money. But what are we talking about?
You don't care about money. You didn't care about the $1.8 billion.
No, I could have helped a lot of with that. Even from the interest, I could have financed the Christ social unions for the next 500 years. Look, you speak about the world you don't know about.
Mr. Schreiber, had you ever disclosed before you gave evidence before me that you stood to make $1.8 billion if things had come together? Had you ever disclosed that to anyone at any time?
Commissioner, I never run around and tell people what business I do. The Canadian officials or the German officials have seized my homes, have all my documents. And since they are able to read, they could read by themselves what it is. I'm not running around and advertising my business.
So the answer to my question is no, you have never disclosed it to anyone until now?
To anyone would be not right. My business friends would know.
Your business friends?
Yeah.